Good afternoon, good morning. It's Mark Johnson from Loyalty360. I hope everyone's happy, safe, and well. I want to welcome you back to another edition of Loyalty Live. In this series, we have the privilege of speaking with leading agencies, technology partners, and consultants in customer channel and brand loyalty about the technology, trends, and best practices that impact a brand's ability to drive unique experiences, enhance engagement, and most importantly, impact customer loyalty. Loyalty Live allows for a deeper insight into state of customer loyalty as we surface many challenges in the quotidian existence of Loyalty360 from brands, the challenges, opportunities that they see around customer loyalty and experience. And that allows us to take some of these challenges and opportunities back to our panel of experts and get their perspective. And with that, we have the pleasure today of speaking with Stephanie Meltzer-Paul. She's the Executive Vice President of Global Loyalty for Mastercard. How are you, Stephanie?
Good. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. Good to see you again.
Nice seeing you as well. First off, we like to start these on a more personal note to get to understand the person we're speaking with from a interest, from a history, from an education perspective. So it would great to know a little bit more about your role at Mastercard and a bit about your background.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I lead global loyalty here at Mastercard. I've been here now for about 5 months. I joined in March from Inspire Brands, where I led digital guest experience for 6 of the brands, including Dunkin', where I was at when Inspire actually made the acquisition at the end of 2020 of Dunkin' brands. So I oversaw loyalty, mobile app, pretty much many consumer touch points there. And my background is very heavy in loyalty and digital and CRM, coming across places such as BJ's Wholesale and Starwood Hotels and Resorts. So, it's actually a really great time to be joining Mastercard. As you know, the loyalty space is exploding. So my role here is really to oversee the development and growth of all of our loyalty services. That includes benefits, rewards, platforms for both issuing bank partners and also merchants around the world. So really excited to sort of flip over here to the B2B side of things and actually help create solutions for a variety of brands that I love.
Okay, great. Last question, fun fact. What's a passion you may have? Jumping out of airplanes, you have 14 kids, you like your extreme ski?
Yeah, no, not. I'm definitely not an extreme person like that. But a little bit of a random fun fact is that I'm actually a bit of a true crime podcast junkie, which I got into many years ago when I started getting into running, and I was training for marathons, and I needed something to listen to when you're out on like 2-hour runs, and kind of got hooked during that time. So offline, if you need any recommendations, I can give you some.
Oh, that'd be good. It's always good to have a new podcast to listen to for sure. For those who may not be familiar with Mastercard's customer loyalty offerings, services, can you give us an overview of your capabilities, your position in the loyalty landscape, and maybe even some industries that you do well in that you work with on a consistent basis?
Yeah. So, over the past decade, Mastercard we've evolved our suite of services. We've sort of grown beyond even just sort of consumer cards and, in terms of the broader, payments adoption. And it was a real sort of pleasure coming here and seeing the breadth and depth of offerings that we have. So our services, are actually very much end to end. So we've innovated in brand loyalty, analytics, consulting, pretty much anything that we help our customers grow their business and think about engaging with consumers, really driving that stickiness. Our customers are across all verticals. Obviously, we're very heavy in finance, as you would expect, but we're actually very big in retail, QSR, airlines, and more. So we have actually a nice breadth of customers. So if you think about kind of what this looks like in practice from a traditional loyalty perspective, we have Session M, which Mastercard acquired a few years ago. Mastercard, we empower, really thinking about some of the world's biggest brands, and we help them drive more profitable relationships with their customers in terms of managing their loyalty programs, sort of offer and campaign management, capability. We also work with issuer around the world, for example, and we run their loyalty programs. So they're able to drive higher consumer engagement, via their cardholders. We have personalization. Obviously, dynamic yield was another Mastercard acquisition. So personalization and decision engines, and that dynamic yield comes with over 400 global brands that they work with. And then all the way down, we have, deep analytics, deep consulting. So that gives us the ability to work with our customers pretty much from the start all the way to sort of, implementation, and then helping them manage their programs ongoing. Mastercard, we don't just come in and kind of do a short-term assignment and then we leave. We're really there from the end to end to help you build your business over a variety of years.
Okay. When you look at customer loyalty, I know you have a very strong background going back to BJ's, overseeing Dunkin's loyalty transformation. I would think you'd have a great deal of insight into what works and maybe what doesn't work, some of the challenges. What do you see in the market that's working and not working, and how do you plan to bring your expertise to bear in your new role at Mastercard?
Yeah, so the benefit is, I was actually a Mastercard customer before I was a Mastercard employee. So in many of my previous roles, we used Mastercard services in a variety of ways, partnered with Mastercard. As you know, when I was at BJ's Wholesale, I oversaw, the Mastercard co-brand there. So that really helped me get to know the folks here. And I actually got a window into a lot of the services from a customer point of view. I also think it helps me give that customer perspective since I've been on that side. And so I know from a customer what they're looking for, what are the challenges as they're thinking about adopting any of our services into their sort of, larger suite of technology. And so I think I'm helping bring that perspective to Mastercard, to put myself in the shoes of our customers in terms of how they're really thinking about expanding their business. Okay.
And when you look at customer loyalty, we always like to get kind of a qualitative definition of how people define certain terms. We actually have a big research study we're doing right now, and definition is a big piece. So how do you define customer loyalty, and what does customer loyalty mean to you and to Mastercard?
Yeah. So, I think we all know right now, loyalty is not just points programs, right? It goes way beyond that. The definition of loyalty has actually become much wider. But to me, it's really that frictionless and flexible relationship between a consumer and a brand. So it's beyond just what they're buying. It's about building an organic connection, right? Through all your benefits, your actions, all those things that drive engagement. And when it's really done right, I think it just feels like a natural relationship between the brand and the consumer.
Okay.
Every company defines loyalty differently. It's not our job at Mastercard, or it shouldn't be any company's job, to come in and say to a customer, here's how you should define loyalty. You really have to sit down and have that discussion around what are the goals of your organization, where are you trying to go, and then think about the strategy from that that sort of gets you there. And sometimes that might actually be a formal program. Sometimes it's other types of benefits or services or offer management. Sometimes it's data services. But that's where we kind of come in and help customers. It's I would say for any one of our customers, they have to look at their own business and not necessarily spend too much time looking at either their competition or generally feeling like, hey, this is where the industry is going, and I necessarily always have to follow that. You have to make sure it feels authentic to the brand that you have.
Okay. When you look at customer loyalty, as you mentioned, you have kind of a broad depth and breadth of clients, from financial services to restaurants and retail. Can you give us a couple of examples of what's working with some of these clients? What do you see that is helping drive that engagement, drive that experience on the customer loyalty side for some of your clients? And you don't even necessarily have to name them. Maybe just look at vertical specific options.
Yeah. So first is really definitely the omni-channel approach. There's just not one channel that you can work through for your program, whether you can't just build a program and say it's going to be, our engagement's going to be in-store only and not online. It really has to be omni-channel. And an example of how we work with a customer around that is Barry's. Many cities have Barry's boot camps. During the pandemic, they really needed to shift their class schedule to Zoom. We work with them on, a totally different new tiered loyalty program that really sort of met the time frame of what was happening during the pandemic to think about different types of member preferences that talked about booking and social media, and it married sort of the in-person experience of going to class as well as all their new digital classes. So it's an example of where you have to kind of keep modifying your program for the times on where your business is. We also make sure, we need to look at, is it authentic, right? Is it consumer centric? If you're designing a program and you're not thinking of your consumer first, that's probably where I think organizations can get into a little bit of pitfall. They're thinking, oh, if I'm only looking to, perhaps I want to collect a lot of data, or I'm doing it because I think I can, save on my P&L. You have to think of, what am I trying to drive the benefit of the consumer, and then how do those economics work for us?
Okay.
And then a third big one is really around this sort of machine learning. And I know it can sometimes feel like it's like the new kind of hot buzzwords of things. But I think even when you think of it from a practical sense, being able to sort of hypothesize and make predictions on how your consumers are going to engage is crucial. And what is your testing strategy? We here at Mastercard have Test and Learn. It's our measurement and optimization tool. So we tend to, bring that as an option to our customers who really want to drive their performance in a much bigger way to help their loyalty programs. So again, it's an example of, even if you have a program, what are the sort of the other, pieces around it that are actually going to make it perform a little bit better.
Okay. What's the biggest challenge or maybe an opportunity you see in customer loyalty today?
Yeah, it's this shift to digital, and programs were digital before, but it's the heavy sort of shift to digital that has happened very, very fast, that our customers are learning that they sort of have to pivot on for their consumers. We work with our customers closely around this to make sure, hey, at every point in the consumer journey, does it feel like, does the CX, does the UX work, that it feels very sort of frictionless? Does it feel that they can get through your loyalty from sort of, end to end very seamlessly? And that also ties to the fact of, that it's just the consumer experience. What your consumer is expecting is also much higher than before. They expect a certain level of personalization. They expect, do you know me? And that is something that many of the brands that we work with are realizing that they need to sort of step up their game around, and that we help them with. And so, I think consumers are really in tune to brands even more these days. And they also want to make sure that brands stand for something, and brands need to make sure that any of their sort of loyalty efforts tie to that as well. So, an example of this is, we have stats from our Mastercard, retail and commerce. It's 62% of consumers now say that it's important that companies behave in sustainable and eco-friendly ways. That's important when you're thinking about overall customer loyalty. If that's important to your consumer, making sure that your loyalty efforts are tied to that is just one example. Okay.
New technology, new idea. You mentioned machine learning, neural networks, AI. Obviously, it's kind of an area of interest. What other technology, or is that the main technology trend that you think is most important to brands to consider or should be focusing on today?
Yeah, it's not just sort of the sort of AI side of it, but it's the smart technology. So I would say the biggest thing is, do you have a really good 360 view of your consumer, so you can deliver that right time, right size experience? And that's personalization, that's your data management, right? How is your data set up? How is your analytics, your rewards, your measurement? It's all of that together. And we do that for SessionM, right? We create this 360 view for our consumers that then they can leverage that view across different departments and different systems to actually drive, what feels like a very individualized loyalty program that is going to be profitable for them. Personalized recommendations is obviously a component of that, but you can't just wake up one day and say, I want to do a lot of personalization. You have to step back and say, am I collecting the right type of data that is giving me the proper insights to do that personalization? And that can be everything from zero to first to second to third party data. And in a lot of cases, if you don't actually have a formal loyalty program, how are you sort of capturing, different points of the consumer journey to sort of stitch that together and say, I think this is the same person and this is the type of marketing I want to give them.
Okay, excellent. When you look at measurement, it's a big challenge. Metrics, benchmarking across industry, within an industry is very challenging. When you look at measuring and defining success of customer loyalty strategies and programs, are there specific KPIs or benchmarks you recommend? Is there some variance based on industry, or what do you look at with regard to measuring efficacy of a customer loyalty?
Yeah, it really varies from brand to brand. Obviously, there are some big common ones, but I'm hesitant to say, hey, this is a must-have KPI, because I think it depends on your brand. What are the most important KPIs that you need to be tracking based on your company goals? And obviously, every company defines success differently. But I do think it's really clear that every company is very clear from the objectives from the beginning and is really thoughtful, what are the goals you want? So then we can make sure that we are designing fit for purpose solutions. And that's where we start in sort of every discussion we have with different brands that approach us, which is, hey, what are your overarching goals here? And then we can sort of work back and think about solutions. And then, okay, what are sort of the KPIs that we're going to sort of measure when it comes to success?
Okay. And the last question, what can Loyalty360 do for you as an association for the industry? What can we do to help those Mastercard or others who are focused on their customer loyalty and customer experience journeys?
Yeah, so I know that you guys work with leading, providers and brands, and I think that makes you guys very much well positioned to be a megaphone for definitely best practices, and sort of a magnifying glass for industry trends. So the more just collaboration and conversation we can have about the challenges and opportunities in the space, I think the more that we can evolve and learn from one another. And I think a lot of brands need to understand, like, this is a journey. It's not, I design my loyalty strategy, I put some dollars behind it, I launch it, and then great, we're good. It's a living and breathing thing. Your loyalty strategy always has to be evolving. And we work with our brands on that in terms of what's next, because your business is always evolving. And if your business is evolving, your loyalty strategy has to be evolving along with that. And I think it's important that we talk about that evolution, both the successes and then maybe even, where brands are having missteps along the way, and how do we learn from that and overcome. It's all just really important, I think, as an industry, which is moving, and the technology obviously is moving very, very fast.
Absolutely. Well, Stephanie, it was great speaking with you. Great catching up with you again. And it was obviously very interesting to hear what you're doing at Mastercard, some of the technologies you have, and how you are helping not only the FI community, but brands as well to enhance their customer loyalty efforts. So thank you for taking the time to share that today.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for listening today. And make sure you join us back for another edition of Loyalty Live soon. Have a wonderful day.